Welcome to the Wednesday, April 9th, 2025 meeting of the Dudley Planning Board. At this time, I'd like to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded and ask everyone to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay. First item on the agenda, we have approval of the minutes from March 12th, 2025. Everybody have a chance to look over the minutes? Any comments, or want to make a motion regarding the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the minutes of March 12th, 2025 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Yep. She did it this way. So instead of,
Richard made it.
Richard made the
Second.
motion. Yep. David seconded. Get them all? Nope. All right. Next up on the agenda, we have Lions Estates update with Tom Ravane from Ravane Builders. My understanding is Mr. Ravane is not going to be here this evening. We sent him an email asking him if he wanted to provide us with any information, and we already planned on putting him on the agenda for the next meeting, correct?
Do we know when his covenant expires?
Or do you remember when his covenant expires?
Lions Estates, it's extended to June 26, 2025.
June 26, 2025.
And then we talked about.
Right, so we were talking about that, because the state enacted that law,
So it goes to 27.
so the Chapter 238 Acts of 2024, Relative Act Strengthening Economic Leadership, blah, 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 where they did the thing where they automatically extend all of these permits, applications, approvals, and everything by 2 years.
They did that again.
Yeah. And it was anything that was originally approved between March 1st, 2000, not originally, but if he got an approval between
January.
January 1st, 2023 to January 1st, 2025, then those all get an automatic 2-year.
Even if that approval was just a renewal?
Yep. Yeah, because, and I actually printed out.
So just for the record, Mr. Chairman, I believe this is the second meeting that we've asked for Mr. Ravane's presence, and he has opted not to appear.
Yeah, so I did get I don't remember if it was a phone call or an email from him, like the day after the last meeting, apologizing for having forgotten about it. And at that point, I said, okay, we'll get you on the agenda for the next meeting, which is tonight. And I even made a mental note to have Aura reach out right before the meeting. And Aura reached out, and Mr. Ravane explained that he is in Florida
Oh, okay.
as of whenever that was, that
Flying in tonight, I guess, if he couldn't.
flying in tonight, so
If his flight arrives in time, maybe he'll appear.
comes straight from the airport.
Wow.
All right, so if there's no further discussion regarding that.
Mr. Chairman, I have a quick question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Do we have any idea why the state extended that for 2 years?
It was part of a ginormous bill that I just looked up. and did confirm it. We had gotten an email from our conservation consultant, and I wanted to look it up myself to make sure. It was-
KP Law, too.
I mean, they
KP
did a
Law.
lot of different things. It was a very, very long bill. They did a lot of different things. It was section 280, and I think I was only a quarter of the way through.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they did it, but they just extended the tolling period for an
They did
additional
it
2
years
years.
ago, and they cited
Right, for-
economic hardships.
Right. So I don't know what the economic hardship was deemed to be to do it this time, but they did it again.
So that, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I mean, that means item number 3 of the new business is a moot point.
Well, you're getting ahead of yourself there,
I am,
Mr.
I am,
Clark, but
indeed,
we'll
yes.
get there in a second. So if we're done with item 2? Okay, so item 3, Dudley Estates extension request. So we've received a request for an extension on Dudley Estates. For those of you who don't remember what Dudley Estates is, that's the little, I think it's a 22-lot subdivision that was approved in 2018 on Jesse Road. And we had granted, in the past, we had granted extensions. At one point, I remember they came before us and we had said that we would grant them one more extension, but we weren't gonna grant them an extension after that. But then they came back and it was under new ownership. Or I think that they came in together, if I recall correctly. The current owner and the new owner came in, they said he's looking to sell it and he wants to get, make sure that that extension's in place. So another extension was granted, and then they put this moratorium on. And that property, because of the water situation over there, I don't know exactly what's wrong with it, but he can't do septic systems. So without sewer, he was planning on having sewer and water extended to that site. Without sewer and water, he can't go forward with the subdivision. So right now, he's waiting for the moratorium to be lifted. As we're all aware, we have no idea when that's gonna happen. But in the meantime, Eve and I have spoken about this, and we pretty much figure that this Massachusetts extension is gonna qualify for him also. So I looked it up. I have the meeting minutes from Wednesday, April 10th, 2024, and we granted him a 1-year extension then. So that would be 2025, so you add 2 years to that.
What was that date again?
April 10th, 2024 was the meeting date. I don't know exactly what month he was expiring, but it was probably gonna be May or June of that year.
So he goes to.
So he had 1 year there, that got him to 2025. That's why he's coming forward now, but I think he's not realizing that he gets the 2-year extension.
So this thing will be, when we total it all up, getting close to 10 years from the original approval date.
Unfortunately, yeah.
That gets a little sketchy in my mind, quite honestly. That seems a little.
His fault.
What's that?
It's not his fault.
No, it's not his fault. It's,
Well, it's not the
I'm
current
gonna-
owner's fault, but it is the original applicant's fault, because he didn't build, right? And it was his fault because he didn't build, and he held on it. The lesson learned, what I just learned, is that no more extensions. That's my lesson learned.
He
If it
could have
comes
moved
from an
forward.
extension, nope,
We don't know
get it done.
why.
All right.
We don't know if it was economic conditions or what.
regardless of which donkey we pin the tail on, we're stuck with the situation that isn't going out for 10 years or getting close to 10 years.
So the only other thing I would mention here, and this would be a deeper drill down, so we don't have to get into it tonight, but just something to keep in mind. There is a section here that says, Section 280 provides further that any municipal, regional, or state governmental entity may, quote, revoke or modify a specific permit or approval or extension of a specific permit or approval under this section when that specific permit or approval or the law or regulation under which the permit or approval was issued contains language authorizing the modification or revocation of the permit or approval, unquote. That would be, I think, town council would have to weigh in and tell us whether or not.
I don't, yeah, if you've already granted him approvals, I'm not sure that you I don't know if you can revoke it.
This says under certain conditions, you may be able to revoke it.
If it, I
Or
think
modify
if it says that you can't, if you said, if you don't do this, we could, I think you have to, I'm not a lawyer.
No, it sounds like it's a legal
Right.
opinion.
Right.
You would
Fortunately.
need to have, put a stipulation in there that this extension was for 1 year and that some action needs to happen within that year. If no action happens, it's automatically revoked.
Yeah, that might be.
Funny you
right.
should say that, because when I was, the last time that the extension was granted and I was on the board, that's exactly what we agreed to. We basically said, okay, we're gonna give you one more, but that's it. Unless we see something starting there.
Nothing's
But then the problem is that after I left the board, they came back and another extension was granted when I wasn't here. So I think that kind of opened the door back up, maybe? I don't know, but,
Mr. Chair, there's someone in the waiting room. Is that someone who can be talking to
That
this?
is for the pre-application.
Oh, okay.
all right, okay, so, so is the attorney for Dudley Estates here?
No,
No,
unless it's him, but I don't think it is.
okay. All right, so the way I see it, gentlemen, is we don't need to take any action at this time. If everybody's good with that, I'm gonna just move along to the next item. Okay, I don't hear any opposition to that. Mr. Clark, did you have something?
No, no.
Okay, all right.
It might be some value in inviting them in so that we could make them aware of this. So I don't know what the action that they were expecting to come out of this meeting, other than another extension. But I doubt that they're aware of, I don't know how many copies of this Mass General Law 238 are circulating, but I suspect they're probably not aware that they've got 2 years to go.
Well, we could, town planner, would you maybe just care to email the attorney for them and let them know that we have decided to
I mean, or at least save them the trouble.
consider this to be under the qualification of the Acts of 2024, Chapter 238?
280. I did, or did you already have a
Oh,
conversation
Section
with him?
280 of
Yeah.
Chapter 238.
Oh, okay.
And,
Okay, so I'll call him at some point, and let him know.
Otherwise, they may be in next year looking for an extension that they don't need.
We'll tell them they need to be here. All right. Next item on the agenda, pre-application meeting, personal wireless service facility, 2 Carroll Drive. All right, and we have joining us via Zoom. Would you like to introduce yourself, and then we'll just open the floor to you, and you can start your presentation?
Absolutely. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Brett Smith. I'm an attorney at Chess, Schwartz & Fenton in Springfield, Massachusetts. The address is 1441 Main Street. I am here tonight on behalf of Diamond Communications and Southfield Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless. And before I continue, I believe our representative from Diamond Communications is in the meeting room for the Zoom. Would it be possible to allow him in?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Just give us a second, we're working on that.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Okay. So, as I was mentioning, with me tonight too is our representative from Diamond Communications, Tom Anuski.
There we go,
So-
okay, great.
Hey, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, sure. Let the record reflect that the building inspector, Nelson Burlingame, is going to join us up here at the table, in case anybody's wondering who this is. Like.
Good evening, Inspector.
Good evening.
So we are here in front of you tonight pursuant to the bylaws requirement to have a pre-application meeting regarding any proposals for personal wireless service facilities to be installed in the town of Dudley. The proposal that we are discussing tonight is for the installation of a personal wireless service facility at 2 Carroll Drive. Some background on this project. Diamond Communications was the successful bidder to an RFP from the town in 2023. Diamond Communications has since then also signed a lease with the town for the property at 2 Carroll Drive. And the project is going to consist of installation of a 150-foot tall monopole, and there will be a 9-foot tall lightning antenna atop that 150-foot pole. And this monopole structure will be contained within a 50-foot by 50-foot leased area, which will also be the same fenced and compound area for all the electronic and communication equipment. We have located the site. I believe Tom did a site walk in the past with the town administrator and other individuals from the town to determine the proper location that would be suitable for the tower. And as you can see in the plans that we've submitted, it's located kind of tucked in between some of the existing tree covering. This way that it has the best ability to mitigate any sort of visual impacts on the surrounding neighborhood, as a lot of it will be covered and surrounded by that tree line. And so with that, in addition to the materials that we submitted, our goal here tonight is just to discuss with the board and with the building inspector some clarification items as to what the filing requirements will be for this project, just so that we can ensure and have complete transparency that when we prepare and file the applications, that everything that the town, the planning board, and the building inspector would like to see is all present, and any questions that any of you may have, we either answer now, or we work with our consultants to make sure we have those answers for you once we submit our application.
Okay. So at this time, are there any board members who would like to start with questions? Mr. Clark?
I do have a question. Looking at the Dudley zoning bylaws, let's see, I'm not sure where we are. I guess we're 1103. E, floodplain districts. Is this in the floodplain district, this location?
Well, I do see flood hazard area zone AE is denoted here on the plan.
I think it's in the aquifer.
I'm sorry?
I think it's in the aquifer
In
protection.
the aquifer? Well, I think maybe we need to investigate that a little bit further because it says.
It's in the flood hazard area too, because it says so right here, which makes sense because that's the French River.
All right, it says no personal wireless service facility structures, monopoles are not permitted, according to the bylaw.
Well, this looks like it's right outside of it.
Okay.
You see, this
then
looks like-
maybe.
this looks
Then
like the
maybe.
area.
Maybe we could get some clarification on that in terms of
Yeah,
actual.
absolutely. Tom, you can speak to it if you like.
Sure. Actually, we're at the top of the hill. So we're at, if you look on the map in a 2D version, you're going to see obviously the river down below, and there's actually wetlands down below us as well. We're on the top of the hill next to the parking area for the rail trail area, and that you're at least 50 feet higher than the actual river there. We also did get the conservation easement for this site. There is a planned stormwater, which we have as well. We went through that process last year. That took a while with the Massachusetts DEP, which is one of the delays in the project. But we're substantially higher than any floodplain elevation, and we're outside of the wetland buffer itself from the French River and its tributaries and wetlands down below us. There's actually a pretty substantial drop off the side of the property down to the river, and well, first the valley floor and then down to the river below where the water treatment plant is. We're substantially higher.
And the total height would be
159 feet.
159 feet, okay.
Okay,
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, they're aware they're gonna have to get a variance for the height, right?
I was gonna get to that. I just heard that today, so,
They'll allow 90 feet.
okay. So you gentlemen are aware that you'll have to get a variance for exceeding the maximum height allowed?
Yes.
Yep.
Do you?
Yeah, we anticipate to apply for variances to the zoning board of appeals as well.
Okay, all right. Does anybody else have any other questions?
I did have one more.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
What is the goodness in this for the town of Dudley? Is this going to enhance our cell phone service noticeably?
Yes, so, and we will definitely have more technical RF testimony come time to the planning board hearing once we submit our application to have more specifics on that. I myself am not a radio frequency engineer, so I can't speak too closely to that aspect. But included in the coverage maps that were in the materials that we submitted, I know you can kind of see on those that there will be a significant increase in coverage in the town of Dudley as well as the town of Webster. Some of it will reach over there as well. And in addition to that, I know through the lease that was executed with Diamond in the town, there's very good revenue coming into the town through the rent payments that the town worked out with Diamond as well.
And there will be
As well as the one-time payment, which has been made to the town. And just to add on to that as well, besides the coverage for Verizon Wireless, all carriers are obligated to provide 911 service to any user of any cell phone, if it's not Verizon, if it's T-Mobile, AT&T. So it is a public safety help to everybody in the area as well, even if they are not Verizon customers. We are anticipating co-locators on the tower. The lease is designed around that. That's in the business that we're in, to allow additional carriers on the tower. But the initial anchor tenant is Verizon Wireless with the signed lease on the site.
Okay, so to sum up, initially, Verizon customers will see improved service. Everyone else will see improved service for 911 calls, and possibly down the road, other carriers might see improved, other subscribers for other companies might see improved service if you end up leasing more space on the tower to subletting, I guess, would be kind of like.
That's right, and we also, through our lease agreement, have to provide free space to any of the town's uses. If your police, your fire, your first responders want to place antennas on the tower, they're allowed to do that at no cost to the town.
Okay, so like if they wanted to put a repeater up there to strengthen their coverage of their emergency services,
Exactly.
they have the ability to
Yep.
do so. Okay, I did have one other question. The tower itself, is that a freestanding tower or is it a guide tower?
It's a freestanding monopole tower, so the
Freestanding
galvanized steel
Okay.
color.
All right, all right. Does any-
Mr. Chair, yeah, the bylaws say that it has to be either light gray or blue. When you say galvanized, I take it you might paint.
It's light gray. No, I'm sorry, galvanized as in comes out of the factory. It'll fade over time to a gray color. It comes out a little brighter and then it fades over time.
Our bylaws say that it has to be either gray or blue. The bylaws section,
Has to be either gray or blue?
yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so,
galvanized is gray, so are you saying we have to paint it gray?
I'm
on
not
top
sure,
of the
I
gray?
mean,
Yeah,
it's up to you
galvanized would be
guys.
gray. Yeah. It would be a shade of gray anyway.
I'm just pointing it out.
so would it be fair to say that what it's gonna look like, because I think not all of us see towers all the time, but I think most of us know what the poles for chain link fence look like when they first
Yes.
are bought at the
That's the
store.
galvanized one.
It's
It's galvanized metal,
Yep.
it's kind of shiny, but as soon as it oxidizes, it turns that dull gray color.
That's exactly right.
So I understand your concern, but my thinking is, if you tried to paint, first of all, a coating that's gonna stick to galvanized is already kind of difficult to make it one, it's expensive and it's, now you get into a situation where now you're upkeeping the coating. That might look worse than just letting it naturally oxidize to the gray color, if I were making the argument, which I guess I just did.
I got a couple more questions too.
Okay.
It says the distance to the property line, supposed to keep the setbacks for that area, which are, front yard is 45, sides 25, rears 40. That doesn't really have frontage the way it shows on my zoning map, which isn't a big deal, but there's gonna have to be some kind of access to it. So I guess all that's gotta be dealt with. Some of it may have to go to ZBA and, talked about, just to make you aware of it.
So, is Carroll Drive is, see, I thought
This-
Carroll
this-
Drive was
this-
considered a town road
This is the
though.
way they show it.
Okay.
on a zoning map, so.
So I guess
Really clear.
what we'll have to find out is whether or not Carroll Drive is
Yeah.
considered a town road, because then they have the frontage on Carroll Drive. It's just a
Okay.
matter of whether or not Carroll Drive is considered a town road.
Okay. I'm not sure where Carroll Drive is, but,
It's that little, it's like a big driveway that goes down to where the sewer pumping station is.
yeah, okay.
You know, where all
Yeah.
the sewer goes down to before it crosses the river and goes into Webster's treatment plant. It's also the
'Cause-
location of the
'cause
former
see-
Dudley treatment plant.
The way that shows on that map, it looks like it's in back of that house for the adult people.
I agree, but it
I think that's
also,
further down. I think they-
Well,
That's what they show on this
Yeah.
map.
but it shows Carroll Drive kind of goes right past this lot on to the back of this
This is
lot
from
where
our
the,
GIS, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
That
GIS
residence
is
has
usually
multi-
wrong. They'll have to show it.
I'm not sure what they'd call it, but there is a residence there of some sort, a group home, if you will.
so,
But I think that's further down.
Yeah, it shows it right back, there's the group home.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, maybe the map's wrong.
so it ends
Yeah,
up being a
sometimes
situation
the
where
maps-
Carroll Drive is in fact valid frontage. Technically, that distance from the tower location to the back of that house would actually be a side setback there that they would have to meet. Because the front setback would be between the tower and Carroll Drive.
It's private, Town of Dudley.
Private town of Dudley. Well, that's kind of weird. It's a private road owned by the town. So it's
Well,
not a
under
public
Water
way.
and Sewer Department entrances.
So it's not accepted road.
So,
Probably means.
It is, I think that's the.
You mentioned this was in the,
Way to show it here.
But I mean-
Aquifer district?
Adult.
It is in the
home.
Aquifer Protection District. I did look briefly at whether the use was allowed or prohibited, and it, just with a brief glance, it seems like anything that they want to do there is fine. There was Steve and I had a conversation about whether or not, like a generator with gasoline and those things are exempted. But you might want to just take a look as to to confirm in your application that your use is allowed in the Aquifer Protection.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and-
that-
and we,
that-
we actually cannot use gas or diesel there due to the proximity to the wetlands.
Okay.
So any generator in that area would be powered by natural gas or propane. Even though there's wetlands, they're down slope from us, and we had to go through the whole permitting process with the state to clarify that. And there's actually, they made us design like a little holding pond on this site as well. So that shifted the area in the compound where we can stay.
right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe once they make their official application and we start moving forward, this is gonna have to make the rounds of all departments, including water and sewer, who are they're the tip of the spear regarding aquifer protection zones, because they're the ones that
And
are.
we actually did, when we did walk the site, we did walk it with participants from water and sewer who were out there at the time.
Okay. All right, so,
And it's, you know, that wireless is allowed in that area, that industrial 43 is, you know, the
Okay.
use is no problem,
all right.
I see. I mean, there's other factors, like you said, the aquifer, they're supposed to go to water sewer, and they're supposed to review it.
Yeah. And actually, even though it's classified as a private way, you can have frontage on a private way, obviously, so I don't think the frontage is gonna be an issue. But you're gonna have to go before ZBA for the height requirement anyway, so you might as well just run it by the chair, I guess.
And even the setbacks, doesn't look like it'd be a problem. From what they're saying, where they're gonna put it.
Okay.
Looks like quite a bit of area there. I don't think it's a problem at all. I just wanted to mention it to make them aware.
No, I
that's
appreciate
all.
that. We appreciate you coming by. So, did you have anything else you think of, or?
There is a $750 fee to the building department, but there's also a fee to.
Is that cash? Does he have to have that tonight?
Bank check.
Venmo.
All right, do any of the other board members or anyone have a question or comment? Does anybody in the audience have any? Go, you do have a
I
question?
have a comment to the board. I think that when they do finally submit, the board should hire a consultant who knows what they're talking about with regard to telecom.
Oh,
There are consultants out there that do this kind of work, working for the municipality, to make sure that, because like Mr. Smith said, he's not an RF engineer, neither am I, so.
Right.
And I don't think any of you, unless any of you are. So I think that is something that you submit your application, and then the first day, when you're before the board, they recommend that a consultant look at it, and the applicant usually pays for it, so just, the board has to make that decision at that time.
At that time.
And I'm sure they're aware of it. They fly that balloon at that 150
Right.
feet and all that stuff.
Right, so, again, this is just the preliminary,
Yeah, yeah.
mandatory preliminary meeting before the big meeting.
It's a good point, though. That balloon, the other guys that came with that, had that balloon set up already before this meeting.
They kind of put the cart before the horse, if you think about it, David, because the end result there was we decided that they were too close to the other towers, and they said, well, we'll have to look into that, and they haven't
be
been
a
back
mile and a
since.
half.
Yeah.
So,
What happened to them? I was wondering what happened to them.
Yeah, and so the balloon float provision bylaws was also one item that we wanted to kind of discuss with the board tonight. Because we know that in terms of the advertisement of notice for the balloon float, there's some pretty strict timeframes. I believe it's between 28 and no later than 14 days prior to the planning board hearing on the matter. So we wanted to kind of get an idea if the board has any preference on dates relative to scheduling the balloon float. And additionally, in the bylaws, it references that the balloon or crane test has to be conducted and remain for 72 hours, which from our experience in other sites is very difficult to do, given that the balloon float and the crane has to be manned and staffed at all times.
Yeah, we don't leave them up overnight generally. So, we just did one in Florida, which was 4 days, but it was taken down every day at nightfall. So I guess we'd want clarification on that.
well, I don't know, well, you gentlemen, but as long as it's up during the day, because I mean, you can't see it at night anyways.
Probably not.
What's the purpose of taking it down? How come you guys take it down?
Why do we take it down?
Yeah.
Because if there's, it has to be watched. If there was any issue of it blowing, getting caught in something, getting loose, and there's nobody there, then it'd be a problem. So that means you'd have to have somebody on site sitting there for 72 hours watching it.
Gotcha.
So,
We don't want to come back in the morning and find it's all gone,
Right.
along with the tanks of the gas.
so I can't speak for the whole board, but would you gentlemen agree that we're probably open to the idea of them being able to take it down at night?
I think it sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I think we've got pretty unanimous consent that that's a reasonable request. So, anything else? Does anybody else have anything? Okay. So,
Just so I understand, and Brett's probably going to clarify to me anyway, but it sounds like we're making an application of both the planning board and the zoning hearing board for this location. Is that correct? Or is it, with the zoning hearing board, just simply cover everything?
I kind of think they should go to zoning and get that application done before they even bother with the application to us. Am I wrong on that, Eve? Would you?
I mean, I think that they can make the application to both boards at the same time. I would say that the planning board should not close and make a decision before zoning has finished, because if the planning board says sure and they don't get the ZBA variance, they sort of stuck anyway.
Right, but you say make a decision on the application they haven't submitted yet. We're,
Right, I think they can submit them both at the same time. I don't see any reason
Right.
why they have to submit to the ZBA and get an answer before they come to you. They
But
can
as-
submit and start the process with you, just the planning board should not act until after the ZBA has acted.
right. Does that make?
Yeah, and we have had similar experience in many of the municipalities that we've permitted similar sites in, where we'll submit with the zoning board of appeals and planning board simultaneously, And sometimes the hearing dates don't lay out perfectly, so we end up going to the planning board before getting the variances that are necessary. And in some of those instances, the planning boards will give their ruling on the permit and have it conditional upon the approval of the zoning board of appeals for the specified variances that are required.
That works for
So
me.
You can do that too,
would be
but
an idea, but
Mr. Chairman, is our bylaw state that it needs to be 1.5 miles from the nearest cell phone tower, or is it 1 mile? Because their drawing depicts a 1 mile radius.
Somebody just threw out the 1.5
Yeah,
mile.
the one and a
half.
Yeah, I saw it today.
New
somewhere.
personnel wireless facilities shall not be located such that they are spaced closer than 1 1/2 miles measured in a horizontal plane.
Oh, okay.
So that,
So their radius is what, 1 mile?
yeah, they're only showing a 1 mile radius, and it looks like the monopole by the courthouse would be within 1.5 miles.
Is it?
Did you guys miss that, or? So what we're talking about right now is that our regulations say that you can't be within 1 1/2 miles, 1.5 miles, of any other cell towers.
This is 11.05 dimensional requirements, and it's specifically F on the bylaw.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at the radius you have, and it's only up to 1
We can
mile.
certainly revise the submittal that we had showing a 1 mile radius, but I'll also tell you that there simply is no coverage from that courthouse tower back to where we're talking about, and that'll be shown through the coverage maps. So if that's an additional variance that we need, Brett will be asking for that. But, you know, that as a straight out prohibition, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
What's that?
The other tower that you're mentioning, that may be within the 1.5 mile radius.
Both of these would be, the one in Webster.
That's why I'm asking what that is.
Yeah, it's a rooftop in Webster. Verizon rooftop. Verizon monopole.
So we're looking at your,
Oh, those are, sorry, I'm not, without being there, I don't have the benefit of seeing what you're looking at. Those are existing Verizon sites, so they're already located on there. So this is just simply another cell within the network of cells.
This is a 2 mile radius.
He's saying that Verizon can be within a mile, but if it's a different company, it has to be within 1.5 miles. Like if T-Mobile came in and
Yeah.
put one out.
no, it's the monopole
Well,
itself that can't be, it doesn't matter who's on it.
Okay.
The
that's what I-
monopoles can't be closer than 1.5.
even if they're
miles.
owned by the same network?
It says no new personal wireless service facilities, in parentheses, monopoles, shall not be located such that they are spaced closer than 1.5 miles, measured in a
Okay, but
horizontal
if it's a
plane.
rooftop, then it's not a tower.
Right,
So-
yes. The monopoles
Yeah.
can't, it's not a Verizon something, it's monopoles. You can't have like 7 monopoles next to each other.
Okay, so
I
a
don't think
rooftop
it's-
is not a monopole,
Right.
so this would not
It's not a
qualify.
tower.
Is the
It's not a
functionality
tower.
the same?
It's a building. It's an
Yeah, but-
attachment to a building, it's not.
Is this gonna be a monopole?
Yes.
Because the one you're talking about, isn't that a monopole?
The one at the courthouse apparently is a monopole.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's 2 miles from there. so-
there's another one, looks like in
less than 2 miles.
Webster, if I'm reading this correctly.
It's inside the 2 mile.
Going
radius.
across
I was
the
wondering, like, how
Doesn't say
close-
anything about 1.5 miles from one in a different community.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not sure this is.
The one guy's talking about is the same community, it's over
Yeah.
there. Oh.
Well, I think you should double check where you are and if you need to get a
We can
variance.
certainly explain anything on the map and make the understanding, and also you're looking at it as a flat deal, whereas your terrain actually varies quite a bit as it drops to the river and it drops everywhere around.
Right,
But
we
it
do have a bylaw.
it does say
There's
measure,
terrain and three challenges.
It does say measured in
on
the
a horizontal
horizontal plane.
the bylaw does say measured on a horizontal
So
plane.
it doesn't matter what the topography is. Doesn't matter if you had a mountain there. You can't count what it takes to go up and over the mountain. You can't count that distance in your.
That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that the signal gets blocked
Right.
by the terrain. And that is something that if you do hire an RF engineer, they'll help to explain. So,
Yeah, and we can see if having those maps adjusted, because I know the maps on that document that you're reviewing now show the 1 mile radius and then the 2 mile radius. And based on that, it's definitely gonna be close, but it looks like it may be a little outside of 1.5, the difference between the 2 mile and 1 mile radius.
It is,
That are
it's gonna-
shown. But we can try and see if we can have that same similar map revised to show a 1.5 mile radius to either clarify that it is outside of that 1.5 mile radius or not.
Question for the building inspector, if that is within the 1.5 miles, is that something you get a variance for, or?
I'm not so sure, I don't.
I think you can get a variance for anything, but the ZBA has to give it to you.
I guess it's a question for the town. When they picked the location to place the tower, put out the bid, didn't they take all this into account?
This is the first
Town
real
administrator, so, no?
It didn't come to us.
How about the answer is, you would hope so, but we don't know.
One hand never knows what the other's doing.
You know, my thoughts at the moment, being the building inspector, because you can give dimensional variances,
Oh, yeah, we want-
that would be a dimensional variance for zoning, so I would say you probably could, but I'm not positive, I would probably check with town council or somebody else, but my initial reaction would be you could. Because there would be no difference in any other dimensional variance. And we're allowed dimensional variances, that's the key.
We did a real crude calculation, and you might be, if that monopole up at the courthouse might end up being just outside of the 1.5 mile radius when you redraw it, so you might be in luck there. And then if an RF engineer, peer reviews this for us and is able to say that this does not qualify as a monopole, this one we see in Webster, then you might be good to go. But it's just so you know, that's where we're coming from, that's all.
So that one in Webster's closer, you think?
Well, the one in Webster is almost at the edge of the 1 mile, but the one in Webster says it's a rooftop.
Yeah, that one is a rooftop installation, so it's not a freestanding tower. That would be considered a monopole for purposes of the bylaws.
Does our bylaw have a definition for a monopole?
Yeah. Somewhere in there.
Gentlemen, just a quick question. My understanding that you guys just don't have extra monopoles laying around that you want to install someplace, that there is a deficit in coverage in Dudley, specifically around the high school, that general area, and this is the purpose of the tower, correct?
Correct.
Right. So if it's in 1.5 miles, 2 or 1 mile, the point of the matter is we have a dead zone that you're trying to correct, and that would be a reason for variance, correct?
Correct.
Let's move on.
Yeah, hardship would be, he's right.
It's not the high school, that's the other one.
This is designed for the high school. Look at these documents. It's designed to cover up that dead spot there. High school has no coverage.
I think we need to continue this at this point.
Yeah.
Right, well, I think.
We have a
I think
number
we're
of
in a
questions
position-
we need answers to.
Right, but I think we're in a position where we can inform the applicant here that we believe they can move forward with their application.
Right.
They're not even an applicant yet, technically, right? But-
And then hopefully with the application, we get clarification.
There is a
as far
definition
as
of a
the issues.
monopole.
Here's a definition of a monopole, if you don't mind. I'd like to hear this.
The type of mount that is self-supporting with a single shaft of wood, steel, or concrete and a platform, parentheses, or racks, close parentheses, for panel antennas arrayed at the top. The only type of ground-mounted tower allowed in the town is a monopole type.
So there's our definition that clarifies if that's a rooftop, that is not a monopole, as far as our definition is concerned, unless somebody can tell me how it isn't. Ground mounted.
The Webster one you're talking about?
In other words, the Webster one is designated as a rooftop,
Yeah.
and according to our definition, monopole is a ground mounted antenna. So I believe that the gentlemen are correct in their assertion that it does not qualify as a monopole, and the regulation specifically says it can't be near within.
Well, there's another question too, that is in
You can always
Webster.
ask.
I mean, does.
Doesn't matter.
Does the bylaw extend?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I wrote it.
Oh, oh, wow.
I'm just kidding.
In 68.
I mean, there's a reason for it. There's gotta be a logical reason. I'm sure that this has something to do with technical things that are beyond our scope.
I think it's just they didn't want monopoles
too
popping up
close.
too many
Oh, yeah.
close to each other, so you could only see one at a time.
They're like telephone poles.
Yeah, exactly.
So, at this point,
I was
well, it's not really a hearing or anything like that, so I don't need to close anything. I just
Ask them.
want to make sure, one last time, are we done with the questions we have for this, for them right now? Okay, would it be safe to say that consensus of the board is that we would like them to move forward with, that they are free to move forward with their their formal application to the Dudley Planning Board?
There's no vote or anything, it's just
Oh, I don't really, because it's not a,
Pre-application.
it's a pre-application.
preliminary, right? Preliminary.
We have to have this meeting.
We have to have this meeting.
That's why I'm asking if it has to be a
So
vote.
we're looking for a sense of the board, right?
Yeah, sure.
I'll make a motion if it,
Go ahead.
No, I'll second.
move forward with, what's this thing called?
And I'll second.
I guess, approve the pre-application meeting request
2 Carroll Drive.
for 2 Carroll Drive.
Well, that makes it
For
sound
monopole?
like we actually are approving their request to have a pre-application meeting.
Yeah, I guess that does.
About something along the lines of the Dudley Planning Board has no issues with you pursuing your application at this time.
Second.
So moved.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Thank you very much.
I know you were gonna ask that. Who made that motion?
No.
Oh.
I was just gonna say that, before you move on to the other items, rather than keep Mr. Salinas waiting for the entire meeting, we could take it out of order.
Okay, okay.
You say goodbye to our guests?
Oh, yeah, sorry, gentlemen. Oh, yeah, you asked about scheduling.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah, so should I just reach out to Aura maybe in terms of scheduling the balloon float, or I don't know if the board has any specific dates in mind that they would prefer, or a day of the week or
Yeah, I mean,
something?
right now,
And we
we're
can kind of work that.
We're currently still meeting once a month, so, and she's got our calendar, so I would say, yeah, speak with Aura. And then you could also check the calendar for the ZBA and see how their meetings fall, and, you know, whatever works best timing-wise for you, we should be able to
So
accommodate.
when would we have to have everything in to make the next hearing date?
Well, our next meeting's the 14th of May.
Right, but would we need everything to 2 weeks ahead of time, so,
Yeah, 'cause
May 1st, latest, or?
Yeah, to look at it.
Right.
I understood that it'd have to be deemed complete, everything else, there's a lot that goes into it, but, just in general, we should, I'm just, wanna make sure I can get Brett everything he needs in time, that's all.
Just in terms of like a filing deadline so that we could, meet that meeting and get on the agenda for that date.
Okay, so when's our next scheduled meeting?
May 14th.
May 14th. Yeah,
No, we have to advertise, it's
we
a
have to
public
post it.
hearing.
Oh, so, and you have to post it 2 consecutive weeks.
So, or what?
And they publish
how-
on a Wednesday.
How far in advance do you need the information to be able to advertise it?
3 weeks, right, I would say?
Because we usually advertise in the local paper, and their deadlines for their
Yeah.
publication, their publication goes out on Friday.
That's a little
so we need
sketchy.
it Monday or Tuesday before.
Right, so that would make it like 3 weeks before the actual meeting date.
So, well, is it 2 consecutive weeks? that-
Yeah, 2 consecutive weeks. So it's just a regular public hearing for a special permit.
Yeah, so you need to have your information into Aura or the town planner 3 weeks before the next meeting that you wanna be at.
It's almost next week.
We have one meeting in June.
Meeting in every month.
So it looks like April 23rd would be the absolute last date, and we should try to do it in sometime before April 23rd.
If you want to.
April 23rd would be 3 weeks from the 14th of May.
Yeah.
Are you asking about the application, or are you asking about the balloon test? I thought you had said something about a balloon test.
Two separate items. One is the application, just to whatever we would need to do as far as public notice for that hearing and anything else to ensure that we can try our best to make the May 14th date. And the second, I guess, is the floating the balloon, but that would have to be done, as Brett mentioned, 14 to 28 days ahead of time. So that would have to be done. We could advertise for May 1st or something along those lines. If that's allowed, or sooner. We'll actually have our guy doing different balloon flights in the area. He's actually going to be not too far away on the 28th. If we could do something on the 29th or 30th of April, which would give us enough time that way, if you feel there's enough notice for that balloon test on the 29th or 30th, or even, or May 1st. I do have my guy already doing a flight on the 28th, so he can be available for that.
It has, the balloon test has to be at least 14 days and not more than 21 days. But you have to advertise, excuse me. You have to advertise it at least 14 days and not more than 21 days. So you need 14 days. If you advertised, I guess it goes in Friday, so it won't be able to be advertised until the 18th. And then that would, 14 days would be about the 2nd. Or
Well, if we put in an advertisement this Friday, the 11th, that would be any time after the 25th of
Right.
April would be yeah.
right, but I thought Or just said that the paper needs more than 2 days.
Well, if they're doing the advertisement, I mean, they could put it in the Worcester Telegram and
Oh,
instead, but
okay.
when we advertise, we typically use the Webster Times because it's just less expensive. And that paper comes out once a week on Fridays.
So, I don't see why they couldn't do that then.
Yeah, it needs to be advertised at least 14 days before you do it. Has to be in the paper 14 days before.
And does the flight itself need to be 14 days before the planning board hearing?
It has to be within 28 days of filing the application. Within 28 days of filing the application. So if you're gonna file the application in the next couple of weeks, I think you're within the 28 days. I don't know.
Okay, so I apologize for dragging this out. I was concerned it had to be 14 days before the hearing on, if we made the 14th, then that would have been the first. But you're saying it could be any time up until the hearing, as long as we, 28 days from the application and 14 days to try to figure out the timing.
11.0708 is the balloon test, and then the filing for the special permit we have to have time to advertise twice, just like we would for a normal special permit for anything. Twice in consecutive
Right.
weeks, enough time before the meeting.
And that'll give you enough time to correlate all the data from the balloon flight, the photos, get all that done and have that all in your application, in your meeting for the public hearing. You'll have all that?
Yeah, our guy takes it right away. So if we did the balloon test, if we were fortunate enough to do the balloon test in the first week of May, that's plenty of time to have it before any hearing on the 14th.
Okay, all right, because it's really just a matter of somebody drives around and takes photographs from different distances, is that correct? Is that basically the gist?
That's what our guy does. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right, so that sounds like a plan as far as scheduling goes. Anybody have anything else? Okay, great. So at this time, I guess we're gonna bid you a good evening and good luck.
Sounds good. Thank you for your time.
Good night.
Look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, let's see, so Or where is Mr. Salinas on the agenda?
Page 2,
Okay, under,
other business number 2.
okay, all right, so at this time, I am going to go out of order here on the agenda, and we're gonna skip ahead to, under other business, item number 2, approval of consultant vouchers, payment of bills, 8 Village Street, Mauricio Salinas, account number 04100055804169, for a balance of $556.51. So, I was just gonna say, all we need is a motion and then approve it. Is there, did Mr. Salinas need to speak, or is he here
No,
for
he
something?
just felt that he needed to be here.
Oh, okay, all right, so we're just, okay,
Oh,
Yeah, it's not, it isn't the guy
oh, okay.
you think it is. Yeah.
okay, all right,
I mistook you for someone else, I'm sorry.
yeah,
It's that lot usually.
So this is,
I apologize.
Do you have that?
Okay, so we didn't need to take this out of order.
no, I
I'm going back to the original order of the agenda.
mistook him for somebody else.
Okay, all right. Okay, item number 5, master plan update. We've got nothing new there. We already decided we're not gonna move forward with any master plan stuff at this time.
Right?
Okay, Mr. Clark, I know that's.
No, no,
Okay,
no,
all
that's-
right.
Agreed.
All right, number 6, A&R checklist update. I'm gonna turn the meeting over to, hold on, I'm gonna give her a second. Our planner, Eve.
I'm sorry.
We're ready to talk about the A&R checklist update. You had some information for us on that.
Yeah, so the chair asked me to kind of look at the checklist and determine what you can be asking for, and what you should be asking for. I mean, it's a pretty, the list of requirements is pretty extensive. I think the biggest issue that has come up, I guess, in the past is under number 8, the fee delinquencies. So this isn't, when you, there's a thing called an A&R handbook that tells you everything that you kind of need to know about why this came about. And essentially, people were trying to submit years ago, a long time ago, in the 50s or whenever it was, just before zoning came, subdivision came in. They were trying to submit plans to the registry, and the registry wasn't really sure if they were actually real plans or whether people just drew them. And so they put this thing called approval not required, which I guess is, frankly, has caused a lot more hassle than just you don't need any approval. But it was so that someone could go and say, I want to subdivide my land and I don't need an approval because it's already on a public way or a way that I can get frontage for, and it has the right number of square foot and the emergency access can get to me. And those are the 3 things that the planning board needs to look at. It doesn't necessarily even mean that the lots are buildable, even if they have the correct amount of frontage and they have the correct amount of square footage. I've been in a lot of other communities where there's a wetland issue, or there's a septic issue, or there are some communities that have where I think I was talking to the chair today, and Dudley doesn't have this, but there are some communities where the lot has to maintain the width of the frontage a certain distance depth into the lot to discourage flagpole lots or pork chop lots or whatever.
And just to, as we talked about, that's actually zoning.
Yes, it's right.
Zoning.
That's a zoning issue. So, and there are other parts that make it buildable with regard to uplands or whatever else is on the lot. That isn't necessarily what approval not required. If you're on a way that you can get frontage on, you have enough frontage and you have enough lot area, and you can show that the emergency access can get to you, the planning board can't turn it down. Whether or not they've paid their, all of their taxes or their fees, if they move forward to build something on it, then the building inspector's not gonna be able to give them a permit without having paid all the fees. Those are the kinds of things, those are the safeguards that are in place when they're building something. But just subdividing a lot and putting a line down the middle doesn't necessarily mean that the planning board is endorsing it, that it's immediately buildable. They're just endorsing that it has the correct amount of frontage and it has the correct amount of land area. So there
It's
are.
actually clearly stated on our, whenever we approve an A&R, it's actually clearly stated on there that approval of this A&R does not constitute, I forgot the exact wording.
So there are a lot of reasons why you can't build on a lot, even if it has the correct amount of frontage. I've seen it in a lot of places. There's, some communities have the shape of the lot. So if you have the correct amount of frontage and you have the correct amount of lot area, but the shape of it is wrong.
We have that covered under the bill factor.
Right, but again, that's not what A&Rs, if someone wanted to, for whatever reason, subdivide the land where they were creating lots that have frontage and have land area, whether they meet your build factor isn't the planning board's concern at that moment. You would assume that if they're doing that, maybe they want to build something and they probably should have a conversation with their engineer or somebody else to make sure that the lot that they are getting as a result of this A&R is buildable, but that's not what the planning board is looking at when it's considered as an A&R. So there's a lot of information in here that may or may not necessarily be necessary just for an A&R. But the one piece that was in particular brought to my attention is the fees, because they're not doing anything, they're just drawing a line, whether they've paid their taxes or not. Maybe they're wanting to subdivide and so that they can sell off a piece of it and they're not gonna pay the taxes at all. Again, I'm not a real estate agent, but.
Won't clear title.
You won't be able to, there's a lot of reasons why you won't be able to sell or do whatever you want to on that lot if you haven't paid your taxes, but drawing the line doesn't get you anything. Doesn't get you anything, and I hope that whoever is deciding to draw the line, if they want to use it for something else, for a buildable lot, that they're taking that into consideration when they determine where the lot is, where the line is drawn. But I will tell you from experience in other communities, that isn't always the case, and then they come back again for another A&R because, oh wait, I went to go get a building permit and all of a sudden my lot isn't buildable because X, Y, and Z. So
And there's nothing to stop us from advising them if we clearly see that they're gonna have problems down the road with, that they're gonna need something from zoning or something from conservation, or,
Sure.
we just know the lot because we've lived here and we've gone by it 50 times and said, boy, you're gonna have a real problem there. But then in the end, if they wanna still go through with creating that lot, even though it might not be buildable in its current state, it's their right to do so.
And the board can't turn it down if it meets the requirements, and there's really only those 3 requirements. So, I started going through it and saying a lot of these were with regard to the buildability, which you can keep them in there if you want, so that's a safeguard for the person who is the applicant, to make sure that he knows that it's buildable, or that he has an understanding of that it's buildable, but I don't think it's necessarily required.
All right.
But certainly the
If I-
fees don't.
Mr. Clark, you have a question?
No, I just thought, to my mind, what I think I'm hearing is that we ask for this information, but it's not actionable. In other words, it doesn't change anything effectively with regards to the A&R as far as requirements that are basically the vital access, as you mentioned, and whatever else may pertain. But most of what we're asking for is informational. And if someone chooses not to provide that information, we cannot turn that A&R down.
Right, if it meets
Right.
all the requirements, whether it's buildable for any other reason,
Except for the problem that the regulations say that it has to be a completed A&R checklist, which means they would have to put a W in all those items. And a lot of applicants have no idea that they are able to, they just assume.
Oh, we've seen blank spaces, we've seen check marks, we've seen.
I mean, you could ask, you could
But
say
I've
this is what
actually
you want.
witnessed it holding up an A&R process because of a blank
Right.
check mark.
Right. Yeah,
I
no,
mean-
we have questioned them in the past, but I think our assumption at the time was that somehow that checklist had some validity and some legal standing as you, as.
Well, I mean, that's what you're looking, the one thing I didn't notice on this, which as a planner is my sort of personal pet peeve, is that no one ever submits an existing conditions plan as part of the application, so when you get them, you just see this is what it's gonna become, but it's kinda nice to know what it was before, so you can tell which line they're changing. That would be, to me, helpful, and maybe to the board helpful, so you can get an understanding of what it was before and what line you're drawing, but you're not the only community that doesn't have that, it just,
Mr. Horn, you've been on the board a lot longer than I have. Do you recall, do some applicants, do you recall any applicants in the past with A&Rs coming in with showing, having two sheets, showing a before and?
No, they usually do it on one sheet. Usually if they have a large lot and they wanna subdivide it, they'll make like the line for the new subdivision, like Phantom or something like that.
right.
And then they basically just say that, lot A is gonna be converted into lot A1 and A2, and this is the new boundary line.
Okay.
Right, so that you can do that also, but.
But we
that's-
could add the
but
language.
You could add it, I mean, it isn't required, it's just helpful.
Right.
Or at least, at the very least, we could add the language stipulating that on their submission, it should have something like the phantom lines to denote.
Or honestly, it doesn't even need to be on the plan, if they have to put, it would be just as easy to have them just give you a narrative. That, the plot, this is how many square feet are now, and this is how many square feet are gonna be in each lot, next to it, some kind of a discussion, because what I find myself doing all the time is, I look at it and say, I'm not really sure what they did, and I call the person who made the plan and say, can you explain to me what it is? And then once they explain it to me, it's fine, but, maybe it's just not even a plan, it's a narrative of what you're intending to do and what the purpose of this A&R is, but usually they just give you the plan and say, go figure it out, and then as the planner, I have to figure it out before I can bring it to you. The other kind of issue that I was made aware of is potentially that I think the planning board doesn't count it as having been submitted until the meeting that it's dropped off, and the 21 days counts from there. I don't know if that's feasible, and I know you only meet once a month, which is a problem if you have to vote within 21 days. So the chair and I had a conversation of maybe putting a second meeting on the board's schedule, and just in the event that there is a need to meet in less than a month.
Keep it as a placeholder on the calendar, but then if we don't have any A&Rs for that meeting,
Then you just cancel.
just cancel the meeting.
But because otherwise, I mean, I've seen this often in conservation commissions will often meet like every 3 weeks, because they have a similar, once you get it, you have to act within a certain period of time, and so a month is too long. So if someone submitted an application for an A&R tomorrow to the planning office or to the clerk, you wouldn't have enough time.
But our bylaw says that the application has to be submitted at a regularly scheduled planning board meeting. So if they drop it off at a regularly scheduled planning board meeting, we didn't have 21 days, we'll know about it, and we'll have 21 days to act on it.
Yeah, but that means you have to meet, you have to, if they come and bring it to a meeting,
Right.
then you have to act on it that night.
No, we have 21 days.
But you usually don't have another meeting until,
You'd have to schedule
We
it.
would schedule it.
right,
We'd have to schedule.
Unless we could act on it that night.
right. And you can, but from the perspective of a staff person, it would be better for the staff person to get it in advance before the board sees it for the first time, unless the board wants to act on it without any input from the planner, which is also fine. But
We
most of.
we also talked about we should clear up the language, because the language says, it basically says, bring your materials in the Friday prior, by the Friday prior to the scheduled meeting. And if you're gonna have them bring in all of their materials, at that point, they can make the argument that their 21 days starts then.
But I mean, our, I don't wanna say sister town, but, Charlton, the next town over, has the same exact wording as we do. It must be submitted at a regularly scheduled planning board meeting.
Well, it doesn't mean they are, I mean, when I was looking at our checklist and looking at other towns, the majority of other towns, almost all the other towns don't ask about the property tax thing.
No.
But then there were actually a couple towns that had things that also go against the subdivision, the A&R laws at the state level that were even stricter than ours. So I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say,
Yeah.
just because another town's doing it doesn't mean it's not.
I would just take the wording about having everything dropped off to the Friday before the meeting, take that out away and leave it at regularly submitted planning board meeting, so that way it would get submitted at a regular planning board meeting, and then we know we have what to look at. And if it's something difficult, we have to reschedule another meeting within 14 days, so we can handle it, or we just.
So, the other thing I noticed when I was looking at this, and I am not an attorney, so, but the sections that regard approval not required in the state, chapter 41A, so 81P says that if someone thinks they don't need approval, they may submit the plan to the planning board of such city or town in a manner prescribed in section 81T. So then you have to go to 81T. And 81T says every person submitting a definitive plan of land to the planning board or of a city or town for its approval or for a determination that approval is not required shall give written notice to the clerk of such city or town by delivery. So I'm not an attorney, but the way I read it when I first printed this off was that you actually have to, by the state law, have to submit it to the clerk.
And that's the argument we had with that one engineer who said he came here, there was nobody in planning, the office was closed, he wanted to submit it to the clerk. She didn't want to accept it.
She didn't.
And
Right, so it's unclear to me whether or not legally you can have them submit it to the,
As far as I know, too, the clerk in Charlton doesn't accept them either.
could be breaking the law, though.
I'm not sure that, I'm not an attorney, I don't know,
I
but.
mean, like, they're gonna have some kind of provision for when you have a town that works with a part-time board and a part-time department. I mean, like, if you wanna build something in the town of Union, Connecticut, the town hall's only open 6 hours a week.
Right, so, I mean, they have to, I think that the submitting something to the town clerk is a more regular, the town clerk is available more regularly than.
Right, but the problem is like, if we only meet once a month and they submit it on a certain day, the 21 days are gonna expire, they're gonna be approved, and we're never even gonna have seen it.
Well, that's why, that's if you only meet once a month. This is the first board that I have worked with that only meets once a month. I mean, that only has meetings scheduled for once a month. They do sometimes they usually schedule meetings for twice a month. And then if nothing is available, if there's nothing pending, they will cancel it. But this is I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with it, but this is the one issue that comes up. If they submit it and the board doesn't meet within 21 days and they don't give you an extension, then it becomes an issue.
Do you wanna talk to town council and find out how we should do it? I mean, if town council says
No.
we have to go through the town clerk, then we have to go through the town clerk, and then we'll have to have 2 meetings a month.
No, I wasn't happy with my last slew of answers I got.
Talk to Jeff, he's nicer.
But as far as having a second meeting every month on the calendar, just as a placeholder,
Why not?
or we could just continue to meet once a month, and then if we meet and an application has come in, and we feel that we need the extra need more time, at that meeting, we could literally schedule a special meeting.
Right.
Excuse me, Steve, you have to be aware too that the meeting room might be already occupied. You might not have a
Oh,
place
yeah.
to meet.
Well, we
Yeah.
could move down
Maybe
the
right.
hall or.
Yeah,
Even
true.
tonight, the water and sewer department was down there because
Right.
we're here, so you don't always know if the rooms are available.
The other issue too is we need to have video.
Put it on for
We gotta
every-
post 48 hours and all that other good
We
stuff.
had before, second and fourth, and then the fourth is optional if needed.
Okay, is that a motion?
Second.
I make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Horn, seconded by Mr. Durgan, that we go back to a schedule of 2 meetings a month. And correct me if I'm wrong, but your feeling is the second meeting would be just as a placeholder. We wouldn't schedule regular business during that meeting. It would only be in the rare occurrence where we might need a meeting for statutory
Right. to
obligations.
Act on an A&R plan.
Okay,
Would we have to cancel that though, every month, or?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
it's easy to cancel.
yeah, and that could be just a simple email. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, unanimous. All right, so we got that out of the way.
Mr. Chairman, we have a gentleman here, and I don't know whether the next item on the agenda may take some time. I wonder if we might be able to get him on his way in terms of back to his business.
He's not on the agenda.
He's been on the.
He's not on the
Not on the agenda.
We also have the issue of that, I hate to belabor this, but really, the A&R checklist, what we were supposed to decide tonight, I believe, was whether or not we want to set a public hearing and talk about actually changing the checklist.
Right.
At the very minimum, getting rid of the requirement, our property taxes paid.
And then
Possibly others hearing now from the planner, her,
Do we want to do we want to ask the?
I will ask town council, I will try to ask town council whether or not there's whether there's a rule as to who actually has to accept.
Accept
Yeah,
Because I think if we have a public hearing and it's deemed that the town clerk has to accept it, then we need to have the town clerk at the public hearing so we can inform her that this is gonna become part of her duty.
right, well, I will, between now and the next meeting, I'm not sure how, again, I'm brand new to the town, how I get access to town council, but I will figure that out, and I will
We
ask
have to
them
ask the town
whether or
administrator.
not there's, or whether or not who an A&R has to be submitted to, and how.
okay, so we're gonna authorize the planner to contact town council to help us clarify and make sure our language is correct regarding who is responsible for accepting
A&R plans.
A&R plans. May end up being a situation where it could be both, could be maybe the planner, and in absence of the planner, the clerk can do it. Okay?
I think they're gonna wanna,
Yeah.
It might be something that the town has to accept at town meeting too, like we haven't accepted that
Right.
portion of that.
Well, I don't know about for what it's in your bylaw, it's in your regulations, so changing it does not need to go to town council, town meeting.
just.
No, I'm talking about accepting the portion of the state law.
That says that it has to go to the clerk?
Yeah.
Okay, again, I'm not a lawyer. I've never,
We had to go to town council to dip into the people's account money to see if we could use it, remember? A couple of years ago.
When you come for an A&R, you're just paying the A&R fee, and that's it. It's not
Yeah,
like
but I'm
you-
talking about accepting a state portion of the portion of a state law.
I mean, the state law stands alone. I mean, we're bound by state laws every day that aren't written in our local
You
town.
can make it more restrictive, but you can't make it less.
Right.
I seem to remember a town meeting that we went to not too long ago, 2019. Archer was on the board. Actually, you guys were all on the board, I think. I'll look at it. I'll see if I can find it.
Okay.
and
What about modifying the checklist?
with just taking out the fees?
Well, it seems like you had some
Well,
ideas on maybe some other ones we could
I did have some ideas,
lose.
but so, I did have some ideas, but I'm not sure that, I think that you can waive, I think somewhere, and I don't have it in front of me, I thought somewhere it said that you could waive some of the,
We typically
have.
do.
right, so if
Yeah.
it's something, so you can waive most of them, but the,
What's that one we
I guess
waive
you
all
could
the time?
waive the fee delinquent, but,
Topography, we waive topography all the time.
Right.
I mean, I would say that's one we could probably lose.
that one actually says specifically, an applicant may ask the planning board for a waiver of this requirement.
Yeah, because it's expensive to put it on a plan.
Right, especially if it's a very, very large plant site. There was timely discussion on mass planners the day that the chair asked me to look at this. And there was sort of the consensus of the planners in other communities that a lot of towns sort of overstep what they're really allowed to ask for. And the issue was sort of, they wanted every tree put on a, 10-acre site that wasn't actually in any other way. So,
Like I said, there's some towns that have some wilder stuff than we do. It
you
doesn't
could,
make it right, though.
you could just ask, you could just put something more generic in maybe, in the top that says, this is the checklist and the applicant may request a waiver from the planning board of all of it. Then they can ask for, they have to
Well-
specifically ask for a waiver instead of not checking the box.
Is there anything on the checklist that is required by the A&R regulations?
Well, yeah, there's certain things that, yes, you obviously need to know what frontage and what.
Right.
So then, the planning board would not waive that.
Exactly. So,
So they can, just like we were discussing earlier, people can ask for any variance they want, that they have to actually get approval for it, the zoning board. So if they ask, I want you to waive, I did actually have in a, not an A&R, but in a site plan review in a different community, the applicant actually asked if the board would waive him having to actually pay an engineer to do a site plan. And I was like, it's a site plan review, I'm not really sure how the
it's a novel
board
idea.
can waive the one, it turned out it was a very large lot, and they did waive that he didn't have to do something on a back piece of the lot that they weren't gonna touch, but he didn't wanna pay the money for what he was doing. So clearly the board said no.
Okay.
So they can ask for whatever they want, but the board isn't gonna, I would imagine the planning board is not gonna agree to waive anything that's crucial to them making a decision.
Okay.
But then we could add that as a, in the first paragraph, once we figure out, how they submit it, just add something that says the applicant may request a waiver from any of these requirements, and the board may grant one if it's not necessary to make the decision, or something like that.
I guess so. If you want to make that argument, then why the hell bother changing anything on the A&R checklist? And
Well-
this was all a complete waste of time. And it was dumb of me to suggest that we try and bring the town of Dudley into compliance with state law.
Well, okay, then we don't have to put that. But, some of the stuff you need, and some of the stuff you don't.
So that's all I was saying, was that why don't we get rid of the stuff on the checklist that A, doesn't comply with state law, and B, is not needed for the purpose of determining an A&R.
Well, I can tell you the things that I crossed off, and you can decide if that's, so the things I crossed off, and I think they're in the back, I think that you have subdivision regulations in the back, were setback requirements for the zoning district, because I felt like no one's putting a house on it, you're just drawing a line. So we don't really need to know whether or not it's gonna meet the setbacks. That's up to the applicant to determine whether they can put a house in the location that they want to. Scenic road designation, I'm not really sure why that's necessary. Again, it's something that the applicant should know if they wanna do anything on the lot, but it isn't necessarily something that goes into the discussion of whether it's an A&R or not. And maybe the percentage of buildable area on the lot. Again, they need to know that, but that's not,
It's not our purview.
Yeah, why would they subdivide it if they can't build something, but, so they should know. But I don't know that we necessarily need that. And that's the same with build factor, which is further down. A profile of the existing grades, except if it so there's one, access, under build factor, evidence that each building lot to be created by such a plan has adequate access, including access roads to the site. Access to 2 or more lots using the same egress requires a common drive and must be labeled. Again, I think that's something that, in some of the communities that I've worked in, you have to show, for access, you have to show that they can get there, but you don't necessarily have to build it that way, and then maybe you have to get a special permit for a common driveway. I don't know if that's the case here. But I don't know if that's necessarily necessary in an A&R. They have to show you that the emergency access can get there from the road. And that goes to topography as well. You may need topography if there's a huge cliff or a huge drop from the road and you can't safely get to the lot, then that would go into the question of access. And then the fees, which is number 7. So those were the things that I had looked up. Oh, and there's another one. The approximate boundary lines of proposed lots with approximate areas and dimensions in the square feet. I just wondered why you use the word approximate. Isn't this supposed to be done by an engineer that shows where it's gonna be?
Yeah.
The word approximate seemed crazy, seemed a little, why bother with if you're.
They're not coming in with a sketch, they just kind of
Right.
jotted out, took a guess about the.
Right, you do need, the chair and I were having a conversation earlier. As a planner, I will never take a plan that's not signed and stamped by the engineer, because they could draw whatever they want. Until they sign and stamp it, they're not really liable for what it is, so, and that is, I believe that is somewhere here, that it does need to be signed and stamped.
I'm getting a couple text messages. I'm getting you out of here.
Okay, all right.
Oh yeah, the name and address of the officials, and the official seal. So, I don't know why it says approximate, but it does. I just thought that it should say the boundary lines.
Okay, just for a note, I'll let the record reflect that at approximately 8:27 PM, Mr. Edmiston, for personal reasons, had to leave the meeting. And we'll continue without him, because we still have a quorum. Okay, so at this point, what does anybody feel comfortable with making a motion to have the planner remove those items from the A&R checklist? And we could talk about setting a date for a public hearing to make those changes official.
So move.
Okay, we have. All right, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
So I will,
0, okay. So just to clarify, you're gonna take off those items that you feel are not necessary. You're gonna speak with town council about that whole situation with who accepts the applications.
yep,
And then, and if you wanna remove that word approximate, we're okay with that too, I believe.
okay,
Okay?
yep.
All right, great. So
And
you've got,
then-
yeah,
And then you'll have in order to make it happen, you have to have a public hearing.
right,
And we'll
right.
schedule that.
Okay.
We have to have, if we could have it at the next meeting, if we schedule it 2 weeks, if we put 2 notices in the paper
Right,
2 weeks in advance.
okay.
Oh, okay, so
Seems
do we wanna?
Sure.
All right, or you can take care of that?
I sure will.
Okay, so we're gonna have a public hearing for changing for modifying the A&R checklist for the town of Dudley. All right, great.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Taking this somewhat out of order, but we have a gentleman here, and I think the planner has noted that he is not on the agenda.
He doesn't need to be on the agenda.
Doesn't need to be on the agenda, okay.
So do you
Well,
want-
we've been pretty strict in that regard in the past, I think, but that's,
I'm sorry?
I said we've been pretty strict in regards to that.
Okay, but because he is not on the agenda, I am unfortunately I'm gonna make him wait until we get to the.
Okay, all right,
To the end of the meeting.
all right. I'm
Okay.
just curious as to how we were gonna handle that, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Okay, next on the agenda, we have the discussion of the proposed backyard chicken bylaw. So this was at the previous meeting, we had a discussion about possibly moving forward with a plan to get something on the fall town meeting specifically regarding a bylaw that would be crafted for people who want to have chickens in their yard that are not farmers. And I'm gonna refer to the planner because I know she did some research into this,
And I
and she's gonna give us our report, and then we can have further discussion. if we
did
want.
with it.
Table that for Dan, or
Sorry?
you want Dan to be here for that? Last meeting, he said he wanted Dan to be here for this conversation.
She has it ready, let's go.
Yeah,
We're not taking any action over it, we're just listening to what she's found.
right.
So I looked at quite a number of towns. I tried to find towns close to here, to the extent that I could. So specifically, I just looked on their websites to see if they had any specific information on having chickens in your backyard. And then I kind of took others that were towns that, there's a state website that says whether or not a town in Massachusetts has chickens. The majority of the places that I actually was able to find anything, some of them are in general bylaws. If they're a right to farm community, some of them will just allow any of it in any community, in any area. But the majority of the ones that I saw actually are similar to what we already have, which is it's allowed by right. Chickens are allowed by right on property in residential areas, zones that are greater than 5 acres, excuse me. And if your property is less than 5 acres, you need a special permit for it.
That's for livestock.
Well, that it is for poultry and other, so I know it is, in other communities, it's for all kinds of domesticated animals. One of the first things I did for the town of Grafton when I started doing a temporary bid for that, is I had to write the special permit decision for a woman who wanted to keep geese. And there was a discussion, the geese were loud, they attracted this or that, the coop was too close to the lot line and not close enough to the house, and so the planning board listened to all of that and, approved it, but made them move the coop a little bit closer, and there was all kinds of discussion, so, but that was in a number of different communities where, it's allowed, but it's not allowed in, areas, it's allowed by right if you have 5 acres or more, it's allowed by special permit if you have fewer than 5 acres. There was one town, and I'm not gonna be able to find it, in Amesbury, which is nowhere near here, but is an A, so when you're going down the list on the state website, it's one of the first ones you get to. You need a special permit from the ZBA if your lot is less than an acre, so it's actually even less. And some of them have roosters, no roosters, some of them have a limit. In Amesbury, the lot was less than an acre, you needed a special permit, and you were only allowed to have 6, and then with special conditions and a review that there was a specific finding that the site conditions allowed for more, you could have up to 10, but no more than 10. Some of them you have to register. A lot of them had, so some of them were in the zoning bylaws, some of them were in a right to farm bylaw, some of them were in the Department of Health or the Board of Health bylaw. Some of them were just, here's a license, you have to go through the process, and the license is often included, some sort of a site plan. Where is the coop and where is it located, and, you know, and, I mean, most of there were people in all of these, when I came across the minutes of one of the meetings where they were voting to approve it or not, there were definitely people on both sides. Some people wanted it, some people said they made too much noise, some people, they wanted I think the majority of what these towns have done is tried to regulate it in such a way that the chickens are not run amok. That they are allowed, but they are able to control so that they don't have adverse impacts on the neighbors. My understanding is one of the reasons that this came up is because one of the chickens got loose and ate up the garden of a neighbor across the street or something like that.
Well, I was talking about that there was a ZBA.
Oh, okay.
There was a permit granted to a house, and they had chickens.
Right.
I guarantee you, there's places here in town right now that people have chickens, never got a permit.
Right.
Because, and you don't hear about it because you never do until
Right.
there's an issue.
That was the same thing in Grafton with the geese. They had been
Yeah.
there for a while, and then there was a complaint, and so they had to come and get the formal special permit. So that's generally, you know, it's the majority of them. Of course,
Yeah.
not everyone did it exactly the same way, but so it wasn't quite as easy or straightforward as some of the other research into bylaws I've had for other uses, because it's not strictly a land use issue in some communities, so it took a little bit of fiddling around.
But would it be fair to say that the majority of the communities that you looked at, it sounds like you've looked at quite a few, that the majority of the communities they operate on an assumption that chickens fall under livestock,
Yes,
and therefore, if you have less than 5 acres, you need some sort of permit.
yes, that
Who the
is
granting
fair to say.
authority of that permit might be different from town
Yes.
to town, might be different, but for the most part, they all have something similar. So the 5 acres keeps coming up, so is that from state law?
Well,
Because I think it's kind of interesting, they're all pulling, why are they all coming up with 5 acres?
That one.
Okay,
That's the state exemption for zoning. 40A, section 3, 40.
It's a farm if it's 5 acres or
Anything
more.
over 5 acres, they're exempt for
Yeah.
farms.
I think that's exactly right.
so that's when the right to farm thing kicks in.
Yeah, I believe so. Well, the right to farm is every district, so I don't know, for us.
Well, no, we actually looked at a map, and then the other thing was, it was like, the right to farm almost made it sound like, if you just want to call yourself a farm, but then we looked and we noticed that they define it, and it's that the first use of the property is a commercial farm. So you can't have, you can't have your half-acre lot, with your house on it, which is your primary use, is it's your residence, and say, oh, I'm a chicken farmer, and put 40.
Actually,
You
Mr.
need
Chairman,
you need
if
5
you look
acres.
at the town general bylaws, 112, section 2, under definitions, the word farm or agriculture or the derivative shall include but not be limited to the following, and there are 7 stipulations.
Okay.
So there is something there in terms of a
So you have the
definition.
state level, and then you also have the.
Town.
Like
Right.
Mr. Horn said earlier on the other issue, you can get, I forgot how you worded it.
More restrictive, but you can't get less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But if they're defined in our definition section, like if poultry is separate from livestock in our definition section, then it would go by our zoning bylaw and you wouldn't look anywhere else.
Number 7 of those definitions is the raising of poultry, pigeons, swine, cattle, sheep, and goats.
And we're
And
gonna.
this trumps got any other town
this for?
regulation. This is the general bylaw.
But
I'm
I-
surprised
the farm
that you haven't
bylaw.
found this.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna.
112,
I'm-
section 2.
I'm gonna.
I know about this.
I'm gonna stop this right here, because
Yep.
we're devolving into another argument over definitions. I already,
Because that's what, it's a zoning bylaw. If it's defined in the zoning
But I
bylaw,
don't
then you
always-
don't look anywhere else.
I would like to know actually at this point, because at the last meeting, we all decided, or I thought we all decided, we would move forward with helping craft a bylaw to help people that wanted to have chickens in their backyards, a small amount of chickens.
I think
I thought we had, excuse me, Mr.
Sure.
Clark. I thought we had all agreed to that we would move forward with that. And then when we took a vote on it, initially, Mr. Durgan voted against it, then he abstained from the vote. And when we asked why, he explained, because it is his intention to bring forward a citizen's petition at this Springtown meeting, and that we didn't have enough time to do that as a planning board, because we have to hold a public hearing. So my first question I have is, have you brought forward a citizen's petition for,
Oh, because we were gonna talk about it here in the planning board.
well, I know, but I mean,
I think
the
I had-
deadline is
I guess the
coming
point
up.
of me getting the citizens petition, if it passes, then whatever we talk about here
Is
might change
pointless.
it. Well, no, it might change it.
Well, or it might not even be needed. That's my whole point.
If
In
I
other
may,
words,
Mr. Chairman,
should we
please.
spend any time even
I would just like.
working on this?
Just to read further, if I may, from 112-4, conflicts and other laws and regulations. In the event of a conflict between this bylaw, meaning the general bylaws, and other town regulations, the bylaw shall take precedence. In the event of conflict between the bylaw and federal estate law will take precedence respectively.
This is
So this
our-
trumps
this is
whatever you
our
got
right
for
to
zoning.
farm bylaw.
This, if you listen, this trumps zoning.
If you watch the animal regulation they had at the Board of Health meeting, Jeffrey Blake sat right here where I'm sitting, and he said that that wouldn't be a problem, because that only trumps regulations, not zoning bylaws.
Then we
You
have,
can watch
then
it,
we have a
August-
question of.
August
then we-
19th,
then-
2019.
Hang on a second. Then we have a question as to what is a regulation and what is a zoning bylaw, and what are the differences between. My reading of that is that this prevails, that this general bylaw takes
That's
precedence.
exactly what Siganovich said when this came forward before the town meeting. And town council stood up then and said the same exact thing that I'm telling you he said at that August meeting.
Well,
You can ask Jeff Blake if you want. That bylaw right there does not trump anything.
that, the town bylaw, general bylaw,
The right to farm bylaw gives you the right to farm.
well, if that's, you're talking about state statute.
I'm talking about what you just
And
read.
it does concede that it is
Wait, you said that was a state?
subservient to state statute.
Okay, first of all, that was the state?
No, this was the town.
If that gives you the right to farm, then why do we need to have anything?
What do you mean?
Why are we having an argument about putting together a chicken bylaw? If you've got the right to farm, just go do it.
Because according to the building inspector, you need to go through the ZBA to have chickens.
Or have a 5-acre lot.
Or have a 5-acre lot, or have a 2-acre lot and make $1,000 per acre. But that has to be a primary use, just like the 5-acre lot thing. So I don't think that primary use thing even holds any weight.
So it's just a matter of, do we do something for the fall? Or do you want to do something for the spring as a private citizen?
No,
You
the
have a
spring's
choice.
too late. They had to be in.
Town meeting's the 19th
Had
of
to be in a
May.
couple of weeks ago, or last week.
So then let's look at doing something for the fall. I mean, we can propose an article.
Right, we got plenty of time.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't even need to,
But what,
we don't need to
why
work
the
on this
table.
tonight.
that's
what I
fine,
was
I'm just
saying.
not clear, so, just based on my research, a lot of the same, a lot of towns do exactly what we have, 5 acres or less, you need a special permit, or under 5 acres. So is the board wanting to change that, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
put in an exemption in the table, the zoning table, that said that something to the effect of, if you have a 15,000 square foot lot and you wanna keep 6 chickens.
Yeah.
You can get a special permit.
The first thing you have to consider is lot size.
Correct.
Lot size, not zoning. I don't care what zone you're in, because you can be in Res 10 and have 4.5 acres. So,
Yeah, but the first thing that needs to be done is changing the zoning law, the way it is, the way it's being interpreted by the building inspector.
This would be a footnote added to like the zoning table, that,
yeah.
But
but-
there's,
It can be
so
anyways.
there's already, you already need a special permit on less than 5 acres.
right.
So you were
For
saying.
livestock.
This would be specifically for.
Well, there's a definition of farm.
Agricultural farm, it's in section 6.0101.
That's just, that's a definition. It's just a definition.
Yeah, it defines the use by district chart. It's the only reason the definitions are there is to define these laws, is to define what's within the laws. And the reason, that's the other thing I was gonna ask, if we could move that definition section to either the beginning or the end. I know it's gonna have to go through town meeting, but to have it right dab in the middle, I don't think that's a good spot for it.
This would be just like, I would see it as a footnote that would go onto the table.
Yeah, I don't see why. My personal opinion is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It is broke. We've been sued by people in my neighborhood, we've been sued and we've lost $10,000 on that lawsuit.
They have chickens?
They had chickens, they got their special permit, they got remanded back to the ZBA, and the ZBA gave them their special permit.
How big's their lot?
They don't have, it's a res 30, so 30 at least.
So they got the permit.
They got a special permit to have the chickens.
They were denied because it didn't meet the criteria of our bylaw. They sued, and then the judge remanded them back to the ZBA, and then, you know, they had a whole ZBA thing for another 2 meetings. This was in 2020, right before COVID. And then they got their permit, and then she got COVID, and she can't have chickens anymore, so she got rid of her chickens. So in the end, she doesn't have chickens anymore, but she could have chickens.
Spent a lot of money to have chickens and then got rid of the chickens.
Yeah, she spent a lot of money too. The town spent $10,000. She spent a lot of money too, because she had a lawyer do everything, so.
But is it possible that the judge just looked at this and said, look, this doesn't even belong here in front of me?
That's why he
This goes
remanded it back to the CBA, yeah.
So she didn't necessarily win the case,
She got a special
She got a
permit.
special permit after being denied.
but the court did not order the town to issue the special
No,
permit.
the court ordered her to go back to the ZBA.
And then the ZBA made a determination, but they could have easily have determined otherwise, and it could have just gone back to court.
Right, but the point was, the
I'm just saying that-
ZBA denied her for no reason.
Yeah, I'm
And
just
that's
saying
why
that
it ended up
What
in
did they-
she didn't
court.
necessarily win.
Did the ZBA have a reason?
Not yet.
Did-
judgment.
What was
Oh, wait a
the,
minute,
what
is this
was?
still pending?
No, the ZBA was.
Well, you said not yet.
Why did they
It's not over yet.
deny it in the first place?
They denied it because it didn't meet the criteria of our bylaw, and then, when she asked, or her lawyer asked it, because it was basically that she had a rooster making noise, it was making a lot of noise. So that was what the one neighbor was complaining about. She tried to get that, just tried to get rid of the rooster, and asked if the 7 hens would still be considered, and, the chairman didn't even look at anybody else, he just said, we're gonna deny it, and then he read the, town council's decision. It's March 7th, 2019, ZBA. I'm in there, right after it. Gotta hijack the meeting.
March 7th?
Yeah, March 7th, 2019. There was a meeting before it, February 7th,
What was the February 7th meeting?
just started it, and they just continued
Okay,
it.
all right.
And talked to lawyers.
I mean, I love good chicken talk, so.
Yeah, this
February 7th.
one's a fun one.
This could be a real fryer.
Good one.
Where's the definition, or where is it
There's a
written
six-
somewhere that poultry is
6.01?
not livestock?
Yeah,
That chickens are not considered
Are you
livestock?
at 6.01?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the first definitions, agricultural farm. It's on the first page.
Agricultural farm. The production, keeping, or maintenance for sale, lease, or personal use of plants and animals useful to man, including but not limited to forages and sod crops, grains and seed crops, dairy animals and dairy products, poultry and poultry products, livestock, including beef cattle.
Livestock.
Including but not limited to.
No, it doesn't say that. It
Yes,
says
it
that at the
did. You
beginning.
just read it. It
Not
said
after
including but
livestock.
not limited to.
Not after livestock. Guarantee
Excuse
you.
me.
The whole
Richard.
thing is included but not limited to.
But not after livestock. What does it say?
Oh, God, six poultry and livestock.
Yeah,
Poultry
but,
and
right, but
chickens.
do you think that dairy animals are not livestock either? Because they're. before-
Exactly. This bylaw was written in 1968. This
I
was
didn't
a
tell
big
her to
cow
say that.
cows
She
are a
came to
recent
that
invention.
conclusion on her own. I want you to know that.
Dude, I said the same thing before any of this, so it's not, I said the same thing. You can check social media, man. I said the same exact
So
thing.
you agree that dairy animals are livestock,
I agree that, yes, but I don't agree that poultry is livestock.
but dairy animals are stated, they're pulled out and listed after poultry for the
Right.
same. So that's the conclusion she's come to.
That's
what
why I
you
was
don't
trying
seem
to change the bylaw, to get rid of the dairy animal part.
USDA considers poultry, chickens poultry.
Chicken's livestock.
USDA.
USDA, United
See,
No, they
see,
do not.
poultry
No, they
livestock.
do not. I'll bet you $100 they don't. You show me where it is. USDA? You check, you
Hold
call.
on, I don't think it's legal for us to be betting on open meeting.
Yeah, probably not.
Then we're not in Connecticut.
I mean,
USDA, pull up the website. 100%.
what I did find in some of these communities, honestly, which I found to be pretty difficult, one of the communities doesn't call it, the agriculture, viticulture, silviculture, horticulture, floriculture, and a stock farm.
Yeah, that's
And
straight
those are
off.
like all the very technical terms that we all just sort of think of
A
as,
lot of people wouldn't
That's
say those
straight off that
right over
40A,
here.
that exemption, 40A, section 3.
yeah,
So it's probably
right.
in the
I had to
other
look up, I'm not gonna, no shame in the fact that I had to look up all of those words to figure out what they talked about.
All right. I think we're gonna move along for now. We can,
Table
this is,
it.
we've got,
Table it for Dan.
we got plenty of time. And I was just thinking, Dan's missing all this good chicken talk. I bet she's kicking himself. All right. Let me get my cheaters back on here so I can see what the hell's next. Standard business. Discussion status report on finishing construction of and acceptance of uncompleted, unaccepted subdivision streets, including Pierpont Estates. I don't think we have anything new there yet, right?
According to this website, the United States Department of Agriculture, USA, defines
So,
poultry
Mr. Clark,
as chickens,
please,
doves,
please,
ducks, geese.
Please, let's move.
That's what we're saying, dude.
Let's
Chickens.
move on.
Chickens, poultry.
Can't move on. I
Okay,
can't, just move on.
we're moving on. All right, Country View Estates, Eisenhower Drive. I just wanted to mention that apparently one of the residents in Eisenhower Drive has come forward and decided to be spearheading the, getting the signatures and trying to get everybody involved in the betterment program. So that's some good news there for the people of Eisenhower Drive, whether or not they agree or not. I think it would be good news to resolve that issue. That's a unaccepted road here in town. That was
Get that road
close,
marked, yeah.
close to being
Kids
finished.
picked up on the school bus.
Yep. Lions Estates, we talked about that earlier. I don't think we have to hit that anymore. Nothing new with Sophie's Way. Inspections and actions associated with site plans. Legacy Landing Country Club Acres.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, again, I am not a resident of that particular development and have had to recuse myself because I am in a butter. But we've had several occasions where members of their homeowners association have been here with problems or issues that they would hope that we could see our way through helping them resolve. And obviously, we don't have any mechanism by which we can do that, but we did think that that site plan approval was going to expire. I believe it was in June. Now, we got 2 more years. That will tickle them pink, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't even think about that.
What's that?
I didn't even think about that.
Right.
Those guys have 2 more years too.
They're gonna love that one. I don't know how we get that word out to these folks. I mean,
It's a state law, we can't. do
I know
anything.
it's this damn state law, but I mean, who sits at home and reads the state laws? Other than an attorney who's probably billing by the hour.
Devil's advocate, I would say, we're just coming out of winter. I think we can give it another month at least before we start assuming that no more work is going to be done there.
Okay, so we're of the thought that the
I tell you what.
contractor may not be aware
I'm
of
telling
state
you,
law?
I'm telling you right now, you come to me next meeting, when we get to Legacy Landing, if you can report to me that you have not witnessed any more work going on at that site, I'll be more than happy to suggest that we request the developer appear before this board and give us an update on his expectations of when that will be completed.
Okay.
Would that satisfy you?
Okay.
Okay, moving on. So that's Legacy Landing, SEP Solar, Oxford Ave. I don't think there's anything new there. I think, again, that's just, they're probably waiting for it to be less
I
muddy.
think it's a 2-year push.
Yeah, those guys too. Oh, the solar too? They want
Any,
solar.
any
Everything?
approvals?
Yeah.
Everything.
Stevens Mill, they're gonna need 2 more years.
2 more years.
Got it anyway.
Got it.
Oh, my God.
Solar project at the landfill,
2 more years.
2 more years. Dudley Housing Authority.
2 more years.
But in all seriousness,
Plant the grass.
Dudley Housing Authority, it's just a little bit of
Grass.
grass to be planted. I don't think they're planning on.
2 more
Okay,
years.
all right, yeah, right, exactly, right. Planner's Plate, you can't possibly have more you want to add this evening. You've given us so much to think about.
I've already talked more than I like to.
Okay, excellent, you got a long drive home, too. Comments from the planning board.
Just a belated welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us and keeping us somewhat on track. As you can tell, that's more challenging than you might have anticipated.
Look how short this
pleasure.
meeting was.
Do you have a set day on when you're here?
I'm here until, I think, the end of
No,
May.
I mean, like what day you come in
Oh,
every
I'm
week?
sorry. I am in the office generally on Wednesdays. Usually in the morning, if, to play it safe, I've told Aura a couple of times if someone wants to meet with me between 10 and 2. I live in Boston, so it's a little bit of a hike.
Well,
But on nights on days where there's a planning board meeting, I'll be here around 1:30. I got here like 1:15 today, because I have to stay. So.
Make it like 4 if we're gonna keep going on like this all night.
But just so that I don't come at 9 in the morning and stay until 9 at night, so.
So you know, we have a cap at 10 PM, we have to knock it off whether we're done or not.
Yeah, I had one town where the town decided that the town hall was closing at 11 because the planning board used to go on for too long and they'd have to pay extra for the janitor to close it. So that was the only way they could get the planning board to stop.
When
So my job was to say, Mr. Chairman, it's like 10 of, you got.
When I first started, we used to have them that would go till midnight and past.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, all right. Any other comments from the planning board members? No? Seeing none, I'm going to move to item number 5. The gentleman who's been waiting so patiently, I'm assuming he's here to say something. Comments from the audience. You have anything you want to?
I've been told to stop work up the road from here on, it's supposed to be 169 West Main Street.
Yeah?
So I'm unsure of the direction that you guys want to take.
Mr. Chairman, I have a business relationship with Mr. Santos. I will recuse myself just so
Oh.
there's no
Okay.
suggestion of impropriety.
I appreciate that, Mr. Clark.
Oh, looking for a change.
So 169, is this the driveway that's going in on the other side of, driveway that's going in on the other side of
So
Gentex?
it's close to Cumberland Farms, just before on the left side going up the hill.
Okay, where it's all
It's just after the
excavated right
venture
now?
property,
Yeah,
if you
Yeah,
will.
okay.
On the left-hand side, it used to be the hot tub guy.
Right.
Right,
Just-
yeah.
So it looks like there's a driveway, it looks like that's gonna be a driveway to go into the Gentex parking lot, is that what it is, or is that not what it is?
That's all I'm using is that flat area that I created. That's basically, I'm a landscaper and I'm looking to get some material there.
What kind of material, like?
Mulch,
Oh,
rock,
so you're
crushed
gonna be
rock.
Having, okay, all right, I see what you're saying.
So you're gonna basically build a contractor yard,
basically.
okay? So you didn't come before us and get a site plan review?
I was unaware. I was trying to be proactive to get the water under control, just like rainwater,
Yeah.
He
gravity.
did come and speak with the town planner regarding this after the
So-
stop work order was issued, and he clarified what he's doing over there, and he showed us, he's got an application pending before the state DOT, because that's a state highway over there, so for his curb cut. He spoke with the building inspector and explained that he has no intention of building any buildings there. He wants to bring I believe it was a trailer, like an office a movable office trailer.
Are you planning on putting any impervious surfaces down, any asphalt, or is it all gonna be gravel?
3/4 stone, just so there's no mud. And then maybe, if my budget allows, my plan is to put down millings.
Still be impervious as a, is that even a word? I know,
They-
what's the obvious?
Yes,
I'm just-
pervious is a word.
Yeah, they
Impervious.
consider millings impervious. Once it's rolled, it's
Oh, is it?
tightly packed, yeah.
All right.
Stone's not impervious, but millings are. If you're gonna have a driveway there, the first 15 feet needs to be paved, or the first
Yep.
50 feet, I think, needs to be paved.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's 15 or 50 feet needs to be paved, just so that you
So-
don't have any.
That was another reason why I took the top layer off, just to ensure that most of the water was not going to the main street. I'm aware that I'm going to have to pave part of it, but
What's our minor site plan review have for requirements? I can't remember that.
So, he met with us last week, and I and I've talked to the building inspector about this. I don't think he needs site plan review. He's a contractor's yard, and while he's in the LI 43 zoning district, that's the underlying district, he's in an overlay of B15.
Right.
But business 15, and in business 15, a contractor's yard is permitted without any site plan review. And he doesn't, he's not gonna have a lot of parking. So if he's only gonna have less than 5 cars parking there at any one time, he doesn't trigger any of the site plan review provisions.
Okay.
So I think people saw there was work being done, and the building inspector was called, and he put a stop work order as a precaution, but I'm not sure that, after we've looked at it, that he needs one.
Do you know, I don't know if it's in the driveway bylaw or if it's in the site plan review, but there was some place that they designated how many feet of the driveway needed to be paved?
I do not, I don't know that.
I don't have the zoning bylaws with me.
I have it if you know where it is.
I was under the assumption that DOT would tell me too.
Right.
They'll tell you how wide the curb cut can be.
Okay,
I think for a business such as what you're doing, they'll probably give you a 20 or 25-foot curb cut, something like that. But I think a driveway bylaw does state how far I think it's the first 50 feet.
53, let's see.
And it has to be within a grade of, what is it, 6%?
That's not a problem.
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty
over
flat.
there.
no more than 6%, that
So
one
I
I
don't think you
know.
have to worry about the grade, you just have to make sure you get the paving done a certain distance back.
Oh, hold on.
There was also a question of whether or not, somebody had brought up stormwater management, and we've got now, used to be conservation, but now we have a stormwater committee in town. But the bylaw says that you don't have to go before the stormwater committee unless you're disturbing 1 acre or more. And he's got actually 2 parcels there, a front parcel and a back parcel, and when you add the 2 parcels together, on the deed, they come up to 1 acre. I talked to, I forgot who it was that said it, but they said basically, if they survey it, it might actually come under 1 acre. But I walked the site, and it's flagged where his lot lines are, and he didn't disturb it all the way up to the lot line. So in my mind, I look at it as, well, if it's 1 acre, and he didn't disturb 100% of it, then he's disturbed less than 1 acre. You can't, don't move any more soil off of there, because you're getting close.
All right,
I also didn't realize until I walked it, that actually,
I thought they were building another driveway to get into
Gentex, it goes
That's what I
right to
thought.
the Gentex parking lot.
That's what I thought.
It's like I walked
Right
back there, I'm
behind it.
like, that's a Gentex parking lot. And the funny thing is, the Gentex parking lot is up there, you know, so
Yeah.
it's like, you don't have to worry about any water coming off of your lot going onto their lot.
yeah, anybody?
Could you find it
Doesn't
here?
have PFAS in it.
Sort of. So I'm not really sure exactly what you're looking for, but there's one thing that says driveway shall be no more than 10 feet in width and not more than 20 feet. I'm sorry, no less than 10 feet and no more than 20 feet in width, and shall be of compact gravel, hot top, or similar materials that will not erode or cause unnecessary dust. And then doesn't say anything about how far in, but driveways, then there's another one. Driveways shall not exceed 6% grade ascending from the curb cut through the first 50 feet or the end, whichever comes first.
But it doesn't say
So it
not
doesn't say about having to be paved.
But I agree with
For
you,
50
because
feet.
I've got like,
There's
I've got
So
a
it
dirt
might be
driveway,
somewhere
but there's an
else.
apron.
There's something if it's not in the zoning bylaw, it's maybe in our town bylaws, there's something that says in driveways, it's either the first 15 or 50 feet needs to be paved.
I mean,
Because if you look at all the new houses that are going up, they do that.
but it's, like at my house, I know it's only 15 feet.
My
But that's
plan-
residential. I don't
My
know.
plan was to pave around 20 feet regardless. My thought was to get, a truck's worth of
So you
a
could pull it
length.
off the road, and then if you wanted to have a gate or a chain to get through there,
Yep.
you would be able to
It will
park.
be safer
You'd be parking
Somebody
on the
park
asphalt
over- yeah.
before you drive into the
Yeah.
yard. Okay.
just to open the gate. And make it clean too, for the road.
The dirt will fall off the tires by the time it gets set up.
Well, that's the whole point of me putting the material down on top of that, but I didn't want pebbles or whatnot to go rolling.
So I think there's no action for us to take here, because he's not,
Yeah, if it's determined that no minor site plan review is needed, then you could go back to business, right?
right.
That's what we thought, and I mentioned that to the, building inspector. He just wanted to see if the planning board had questions. He didn't wanna
Yeah.
lift the stop work order until the planning
Until he
board
was
had a chance
satisfied
to.
at the planning board.
Had no questions.
So the building inspector has to lift it, though, we can't lift it.
Yeah, no,
Right.
it doesn't have anything to do with the planner or the planning board, but
Right.
he wanted, your,
So do we need to take a vote that
I don't
the
think
planning
so.
board has no issue with what's happening at one
No,
sixty-nine?
I don't wanna take a vote, because he's not on the agenda even.
Okay.
we can just let the building inspector know that the planning board did not have any problem with it, and he can act as he sees fit.
Okay. Sounds good. I think you'll be all set to go tomorrow.
Tomorrow, 7 a.m. Thank you.
I don't know when the building
Well,
inspector's gonna be in, but.
Have a good evening,
Get here till
everyone.
9 maybe.
Thank you for seeing me.
Yep,
Thank you.
sure.
Have a good day.
Okay, so, let's see. Those comments from the audience. There's nobody else in the audience, so we can move on to other business. Approve and set the next meeting date, May 14th, 2025. Does that work for everybody?
Sure does.
Okay, great.
Do you wanna put in the second one in April, just in case?
We're gonna do all the second ones for the rest of the year.
Okay,
We'll just put it all in as one thing for the rest of the year.
Starting in April.
so then the next meeting is actually,
Starting in May.
Yeah, do you wanna start it in May or April?
We can start in May. We don't have any A&Rs
Yeah,
pending.
Yeah, we can start it in May, and it'll go through the rest of the year.
okay, we'll have to call an
Watch, now that I
emergency meeting
said
if
that,
someone
someone's gonna come
comes. Someone
tomorrow.
comes in, we'll have to call an emergency meeting.
That's okay.
Mr. Chairman, at this point, it doesn't look like we have any reason to meet as we have in the past before the town meeting on the 19th. Is that the case?
We can cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay.
We'll get a little bit closer.
A little bit closer, all right.
Okay. Approval of consultant vouchers, payment of bills. 8 Village Street, Mauricio Salinas, account number, I'm not gonna read that again. Balance of $556.51. Whoever wants to make the motion that we approve payment of that.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we authorize, or to pay the $556.51 from the account for the 8 Village Street property.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and it's been seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Does that close that guy out?
I believe so, yeah. He's,
The balance of the account.
yeah. Other town notices, I don't think we have anything. Other correspondence? Don't think we have anything else there either. Entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Good night, everybody.